I was saying, I've noticed that for all of our podcasts, we always like start with, "So how you doing? How are you doing?" And it's like we don't live with each other. Like, I know how you're doing.
Yeah.
At least I think I do. How are you doing today?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm okay.
can I help with anything?
No.
Okay. Wow.
Is this recording?
Yes.
Oh. I'm not going to talk about it.
Ooh. Moving on.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the last podcast we did, episode 11?
I think it was one of our best ones.
Failure and success.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was good too.
Just got to be consistent.
Just got to be consistent, which is what we're doing. We're actually recording earlier this week.
Yep.
So the topic for today, fear.
So, yeah, fear.
Did I scare anybody?
Yeah, probably scared me a little bit.
So here's a question. What is one of the first times?
Well, fear is a broad topic.
Fear is a broad side. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, because it could mean a lot of things.
Because there's FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah, there's fear. Yeah, I mean, fear. You could be scared of a physical thing.
Mm-hmm.
You could be scared of an irrational thing, like what people think of you, which we talked a little bit about last week.
Or an irrational fear of, like,
Spiders.
Quicksand.
Or quicksand, yeah.
That was a very big fear as a kid. I feel like for everyone. I mean,
I wasn't scared of quicksand as a kid.
well, speak for yourself.
How many times did you come into contact with quicksand?
Exactly why it's an irrational fear.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No one had that? Come on.
No,
I can't be the only one.
You were the only one, Colin.
No, I don't think I was.
Did you watch Princess Bride one too many times? Is that where it came
I've
from?
only seen that movie once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's a quicksand scene in there.
I remember, yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
so
so what was your question?
My question was not like what is your biggest fear or what is one of your biggest fears, but what moment in your life do you remember being the most scared? And this could be any kind of scared, like any of those topics that we were talking about. But what moment in life do you remember being the most scared?
Well, right now it's like 100-mile-an-hour winds outside.
It's
Pretty freaking scary. I don't know. I would say, I mean, I've had a lot of run-in with the police a couple times, and that's pretty terrifying.
Do you want time to think about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have one?
Mine. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to say I love fear, but I love things that like my body is scared of, right? Like when we talked about this a couple podcasts ago, but like adventure stuff, like extreme sports and everything, like going 50 miles per hour on my snowboard, like just bombing down a hill, terrifying.
Yeah.
But really fun. I enjoy that fear. Going like swimming with sharks, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
But it was really fun, and I love that kind of fear. The kind of fear that I had never, ever felt before in my life and never want to feel again was when Alex and Cameron and I were at Cindy's in Chicago, and we were just having a great day, and out of nowhere, Alex just got like ghost pale and just like dropped to the floor, and she like got rigid and fell straight back.
Yeah.
And Cindy's patio is concrete outside, and her head just smacked the concrete.
Eesh.
I'd never heard a noise like it in my life. It was like listening to like football helmets collide.
Oof.
Immediately, Cameron and I like go down to try to grab her, right? And half of her eyes are rolled in the back of her head. Half of her face is not just droopy, but like pushed down.
Yeah.
Like a stroke kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she was not responding at all.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't look like she was breathing. And I had never been that scared in my entire life.
Yeah.
And especially watching Cameron and both Cameron and I looking at each other, not knowing what to do, just screaming, Is there a doctor? Does anybody know what to do? Somebody call 911.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
She pulled through, though.
She pulled through. It took a couple months.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a miracle. They were going to have to drill a hole in her head to drain some blood, but
yeah,
God got rid of that first. So That was awesome.
I had something similar happen in 6th grade.
Yeah.
Like literally almost the exact same spot, like
Mhm.
on the head. I like fell down the stairs. I was like running down the stairs in 6th grade trying to get to class, and I slipped and I whacked my head on the corner of a stair.
Yeah.
But it was rubber stairs, so I like, nothing broke skin, but
Mhm.
still I immediately like blacked out. They said I had a seizure, but I don't know. Anyway, so they said I blacked out. Well, I did black out. Same thing. I had bleeding on the brain.
Mhm.
It was, yeah. I wasn't so much scared. I was more just like confused
Right.
because like you were just in and out of it
Uh-huh.
for a long time. Like my mom was pretty scared, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that
It's terrifying.
in my life, that was probably the most scared I've ever been. Like that
Yeah.
for a fear that I've never felt before and never expected to really feel that kind of fear.
Mhm.
Yeah. That was super scary.
One thing that comes to mind, this was, and this is, people are probably gonna make fun of me for this, but I don't really care. When I was in high school, and the girl I was dating at the time, she broke up with me like on the last day of school. Basically, throughout that entire relationship, I sort of like pushed off all of my friends.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember why.
What grade? How old were you?
I think I was 17.
Okay. So late high school.
Yeah, I was just becoming a senior.
Okay.
So I had no friends really. And I should remember after she broke up with me, I like deleted everything off Facebook, like friend groups,
Mm-hmm.
like people that I knew, but not everybody. I kept some people. And I just was like, I kept everything at a distance. And I don't even think we were hanging out yet. I mean, we knew each other.
Not regularly.
Right, not regularly. And I just remember like going home. One, I broke my phone because it kept breaking. So it was like one of those really shitty Windows phones.
Uh-huh.
And it would just like, the battery would fall out, but it would like fall out just a little. Like it would stay in the phone, but it would fall just a little, that would turn off.
Right.
And I'd get so mad. And I finally like, I remember I went to my friend's house right after and it fell out of the battery and it turned off, and I just threw it face down to the ground and cracked it. Well, broke the whole thing, and my mom was pissed. I just remember going into my mom's bedroom and be like, I broke my phone. She's like, what'd you do? I'm like, I threw it. She's like, okay. So anyway, besides that, just going like home after that and the next day, like not knowing just what's going to happen
Mm-hmm.
because I was essentially alone.
Changed your life.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, people are like, oh, it was a high school relationship. But it's like, but also,
But that's everything in high school.
exactly.
Yeah.
At the time, yeah.
Totally.
But I just remember being so lost
Mm.
and not knowing which direction to go in, and it fucked me up for a while because I had burned every bridge. I had some friends, but they were like more of acquaintances.
Mhm.
They were friends I didn't hang out with anymore, and I just remember like I'd go home every day and I would just literally like sit in my room and do nothing for
Yeah.
like an entire year. Through my entire senior year, I didn't do anything. And it's sad because I was partially like content with that because I sort of grew used to that,
Mhm.
the loneliness. And then I just remember at the end of senior year, I had no college plans. I had nothing. And then like school ended, and then it was like, okay, well, it's time to go to college. It's like, well, I have no plans. Like I have
Right.
no idea what to do. And so I was just like stuck in this funk for like a year.
That's the worst.
And it was awful because I somehow graduated high school. And I just remember there was just so much. It was, I don't remember like having like a fear moment
Uh-huh.
where it was like with Alex when she fell. It was more or less just like a whole like feeling for a very long time,
Yeah.
just stuck in this like loop. And then I got shingles, and that was fucking awful. So yeah, so it was just really frustrating. But yeah, then also I had to go to school, and I just remember, so I ended up on going to college, and I just remember like, again, I had dug myself so deep into this like lazy, depressing hole that I was so scared to do anything new,
Mhm.
like terrifying.
Yeah.
And I just remember being crippled by fear of not knowing what to do, not knowing, and I was just like waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And to the point my mom was like, dude, you have to do something. Like you can't just sit around here and do nothing. And because that bled from like, so I graduated in May of 2013, and then that basically from May until like December is when I just was like stuck in this loop that I just didn't do anything. I think I worked out every day, but I had no money to pay for it. I think I delivered pizzas. Like it was awful. And I barely had a job, and I was 18. Like, and I just didn't know what direction to go in because school never interested me. Yeah, I just remember being like terrified and also just really like sad because, again, all the people that I had built relationships with after that breakup, like I built some more relationships with people, they were all going off to school.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like this, like, I think you were still around. Yeah, you were still around. But like Nick and Jack Wilson all left, and I was just like super depressed. And again, there was just this crippling fear. And I just remember going to a 5130 group, and they're like, "How you doing?" And I just broke down in tears, just because I had been holding it in this entire time, and I just didn't know what direction. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And that's sort of like a fear that I feel like I never let go of, because it wasn't centered around like one central fear. It was just like this culmination of all these feelings that if I feel these feelings, I just go into this hole, and then I can't get out of this hole.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
Do you feel like, you brought up 5130, do you feel like you've learned how to better treat and recognize your fear from all the years of 5130? So for anyone who doesn't know, Colin and I are in and out and part of this ministry where we have young men come through a weekend and we just do some exercises and talk about, fear and anger and all these different kinds of emotions and things, just to how to recognize them and how to act with those emotions. And we talk about fear every weekend.
Yep.
We talk about how fear, I love like the analogy that Dan uses, like we have to think of it like a switch, right? That fear should be, and it isn't always, but it should be a conscious decision, right, to either turn that on or turn that off,
right?
Because there's that good fear. If somebody's running at you with a machete, fear is going to help you make hopefully good decisions, fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
If we come into a situation like I don't know, whether it be a relationship or a friendship is going in a wrong direction, or you mentioned FOMO earlier, right? We have to make that conscious decision to turn fear off, because at times that could help us, not help us, that could encourage us to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, to go off what you're saying, I'd say I had a really weird fear of talking to people, which is surprising for me. But I did at a time because I feel like I didn't have anything to add to a conversation, or I knew how to be like confident in what I'd say. So
you didn't know how to be confident with what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I just was always that quiet. I mean, I wouldn't say I was shy. Like when I would talk, but I didn't learn good people skills, like picking up on like social cues and if they seem interested, if they don't seem interested, like in that conversation. And I felt, it's funny, like I really wanted to be a cop at some point, so I learned how to be very observant. So I would literally just like go through school and I would look at people and I would just study that. And I would study how, maybe this person is, shy or that person doesn't trust that person. Like it was weird.
That person's on crack cocaine.
Yeah. But I just became very observant, especially in conversation when I would like pick up on cues, like to see if they're actually interested or if someone's being flirty or someone's being like an asshole. Like it was really easy to pick up on or to learn just by doing it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know like until I started working at like I started working at a gym that I started learning more about like the different kinds of people that walk through a gym door.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got to my current job where I learned more and more and more, and where it came like part of my job to know people. And
that's a good segue. Do you feel like for people who might have fear of talking to people or fear of not being confident enough, do you feel like one of the best ways, at least for you, what did you handle that by jumping right in to face that fear, or how did you deal with that?
Well, every situation, if I go into something that I don't, if I'm like like the oddball out,
Yeah.
I stay back and I be very observant, and I try to see what sticks if I were to say anything. And if I leave that, circumstance not adding anything to the conversation, then I just didn't figure it out, and it's not a big deal. Like when I first started a job, I mean, most people are very quiet, very conceited until you start opening up a little bit more. And so when I got to my current job, there was like years and years and years of relationships that were already built before I even got there. So I'm like, okay, so how am I going to insert myself into this? Okay, well, maybe just like find something in common with everyone and just see if that sticks.
Yeah.
And you just like listen. You just be that, what is that, like something on your shoulder, bird on your shoulder?
Just be like a fly on the wall.
Yeah, fly on the wall. Yeah. And just listen, which sounds like
fly on the shoulder.
Yeah. That's one of my sayings, right? Yeah, just be like a fly on the wall and see if I can add anything, or if this person's cool, or whatever it is. And it's not like spying or just
you're
like
assessing
listening.
the situation.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out if I'll fit in here or not.
Right. At what point did you decide, well, if I don't fit in, that's okay? Because obviously fear is driving.
Mm-hmm.
It's driving that, well, I don't want to not fit in.
Yeah.
Right. So, but there has to be, when was that change where you're like, well, it's okay that I don't fit in?
There's been a few instances where things like changed, because at the end of the day, it is a job, and it needs, you need to do your job to get paid. You can't sit around and make friends all day, which is, it is, I would say, part of the job to build a relationship with people there, because you're going to work with your coworkers. I'd rather be the person that people like to work with than the people that don't want to work with.
Sure.
And I know a lot of people that I don't like to work with, or at least they don't work there anymore. Who is ever listening? I think there was a point in time where like it just, we never were very cliquey. And then at one point it switched. And then I was like, okay, I mean, I don't have to be here. I don't have to be a part of the inside jokes. It would, it'd be nice to be a part of that. But at the end of the day, it's like, this is my job. I get paid to be here. I get paid to do my job. I have to do my job.
Right.
I can't worry about what everything else is going on, whether or not these people like me or not, which could segue into something like, there is a fear of people wanting to be liked by everyone.
Oh, totally.
I mean, but there is a massive fear. And I, for the longest time, wanted that, because I think that our society really builds up a, cool kids and all the popular guys, and everybody's like funny and charismatic. But it's like, no, everybody's broken. And it's the sad truth at the end of the day that no one gives a fuck about you, like your feelings. No one, like whether you like it or not. To an extent,
I know what you're talking about, but I mean, obviously, your close friends in your family do,
right.
But just the people that you come into
gratification, seeking gratification from people, admiration,
admiration,
whatever. There's a lot of words for it.
Sure,
yeah. So I think, and I understand people who think that way. I've been there, and I totally understand it. But it's so freeing when you realize that, like, it doesn't matter.
Stop caring.
Yeah, like even your parents, like a lot of people, and I love Gary Vee for this. He's like, if your parents don't agree with your dream, okay, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
They'll support you at some point, but right now they don't. That's okay. No one is supposed to agree with your dream except for you. Right. If you're doubting it, then it's not right.
Right. And that will get in the way of you actually pursuing your dream.
Right.
If you want to have a hot dog stand and nobody in your life is supporting you to do that hot dog stand, you're probably not going to do that hot dog stand.
No.
If you keep looking for people to support you before you do it, you're never going to get it done.
Right.
You just got to do it and hope somebody else will come along, because the world is filled with people who love hot dogs.
Exactly. Well, except for me.
Colin doesn't like hot dogs. Mm-mm. This was a bad analogy.
Yeah. I'm starting to gag a little bit. I hate hot dogs. But you're right. There is only one person out there that can be you, and it's you. Mm-hmm. So be you. And who gives a fuck about what other people think? Like, I'm sorry. Unless you're like killing people, there's a difference. But like, seriously, I get it. High school and school and whatever, it is a big thing. Like, and at that time in that bubble, it can seem like that is the end of the world if this person doesn't like you or this and that.
Well, because that is the biggest thing in high school, right? High school, we don't send kids to high school so they can learn how to do math and science and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. We send kids to high school so they can learn how to interact with other humans.
Right. To be a part of a society.
Right. So it makes sense that that's what's the most important thing
Right.
to those high schoolers.
Right.
Right. You keep going. Sorry,
But
I
it's-
interrupted.
Once you get out of that, and I think people realize that it, like, your world is so much bigger than high school,
Mhm.
than school, period. And I think people still get caught up in that. Excuse me. Oh my God, that it's the chicken breast is coming back. People get caught up in that mentality for so long that you build your identity through it. And there's that saying, like, people peak in high school.
Yeah.
I think I'm going off a tangent. Anyway. I feel like Alex Jones. They're turning the frogs gay. Yeah, I mean that is a big fear of people, and I know people want to be liked, and people. I think it is a very young mentality, though, like a young person's mentality, like early 20s.
I wouldn't even say it's a young. I think it's an immature. Well, I mean, people hate this word, but I'm going to use it. I think it's an immature mentality.
Yeah,
Because I know 30, 40-year-olds who still have that mentality.
yeah,
And it's not because they're young. It's because they haven't matured to understand that people don't care.
I think it's a deep insecurity too.
No, it totally is.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, it's justified because of the way that our media and our entertainment is built, and because of the way that our schools are built, and because of just society, specifically Western society in general. It's pretty justified for
Right.
people to feel that way, for that to make people make their career choices, and people make decisions in their career because they're like, I'm scared of how people are going to think of me, or
Yeah.
I want to be liked, or I want to be loved, or I want to be the most successful,
yeah,
whatever, which goes back to last week's topic about, fear of failure and success and all that. If you haven't listened to that podcast, go back and listen to it.
And I understand there are circumstances that require you to be liked by a certain person, whether it's like for a promotion, but also I think it's an insecurity with confidence that people don't feel confident in themselves. So they need other people to admire them
Yeah.
or give them gratification and all these things. And I think it just builds off of a lack of confidence, whether it's like you're trying to impress your boss. It's like, who gives a fuck if your boss likes you?
Right. Do
If
your
you-
job right.
If you do your job correctly and better than the previous person, you will be admired.
Yeah.
And you will be rewarded.
Right.
At the end of the day, a boss will go home and sleep soundly. If
Yeah.
you're going home and thinking, oh my gosh, my boss is going to like freak out tomorrow and blah, blah, blah. It's like, they don't care.
They don't have to be your friend.
Exactly.
They're your boss.
Exactly.
Yeah. Taylor and I were actually talking about this today. That there's a fine line between confidence and being a jackass. I feel like I lost that. Well, I don't really care what or not lost, but I gained that perspective of, well, I don't really care what people think 4 years ago.
So you don't have that mentality now, or you do?
So I don't care what people think.
Okay.
My close friends and my family, yes, I care what they think of me.
Mhm.
But when it comes to just the everyday person that I meet on the street,
Right.
I try to be a nice person and everything. But if anything, I'm more honest, brutally honest with like my close friends and family, because I hope that they can understand me
Right.
for me. But there's that fine line between just being confident in what you're saying and confident in who you are
Yeah.
versus just being a total dick. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you saw that with me 4 years ago after my last relationship. I'm like, well, you know what? I don't care what people think of me. I'm going to be confident with what I say. I'm going to
Yeah.
be confident with what I do.
Right.
And I'm just going to live my life the way I want to live my life.
Mm-hmm.
I stepped over that line and I was like an ass for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to, with the help of Taylor, started to like back off of that. And now most of the time, I think it's more just confidence in who I am. And I think that has a lot to do with a person's faith and with a person's spirituality as well. Because for me, if I can be confident with my decisions because it's something bigger than me,
Yeah.
it's easier for me to be confident in that. I find a lot of people who are a little bit wishy-washy in what they believe, and not just in like a faith, but what they believe in, period.
Right.
Whether that be politics or their faith or how they want to act. If they haven't decided the kind of person they want to be, they're gonna be really anxious and
Mhm.
scared about the decisions that they make,
Yeah.
instead of just making those decisions because they're comfortable with who they are.
Right.
And fear drives that,
Mhm.
right? Because it's like, well, I guess that's back to evolution, is that we had to be we had to be liked to a certain extent to survive,
Yeah.
right? Or else you get
Yeah.
kicked off the island. So it makes sense,
Yeah.
but it's hard to find that fine line.
Yeah. Because fear is such a driver, whether it's like fear of, losing a job or running out of money and
It's just surviving.
right.
Yeah.
I thought of this the other day, and they always say like the hungry bear is dangerous. And I think, the
Is
hungry
that a Russian proverb?
No, it's a Cullen proverb. But let me finish. A hungry bear is dangerous, but a starving bear is even worse. Because a hungry bear will do just enough to get by. A starving bear will do whatever it takes. The difference of what can drive people. I always think of like the movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. I've only seen parts of it, but I mean, he wasn't hungry. He was starving, and he was doing whatever he could.
Yeah.
There's so many circumstances, so many stories that you can apply that to, even into your own life. Like, think of a time when you were hungry for like a job or promotion. You're like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But remember,
Or acceptance.
or it's like, oh no, I'm starving.
Yeah.
Like there's a very big difference between the two, because a starving bear will do whatever it takes. Like they say, a hungry bear will kill something, but a starving bear will murder someone,
Yeah.
like a person.
It's funny that because I was gonna bring up people who, like, that reminds me of, like, Steve Jobs, where you hear the stories where he was just ruthless in his decision making, in his leadership. He was gonna do whatever it takes to create technology that nobody else was doing.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg, ruthless.
Same thing. I mean, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, he claimed he didn't take the idea, but he created the idea
Right.
of Facebook, but he wanted to be the sole person of Facebook. He didn't want anybody else a part of it.
Yeah, and that starvation, I like that analogy, that starvation can drive people to do really vicious things.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's back to that, well, what's confident and what's being an asshole, and what's passion and what's obsession.
Yeah.
Right.
Or what's your drive for power.
Right.
Because absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
And now Zuckerberg's an android. He's a human android. I think the next topic should be faith.
Okay.
And then we'll go with food.
Oh,
Yeah.
very nice.
Yeah. And
We could do friends.
Oh, we
could have Nick on.
We could have Nick on, yeah. We'll Skype him in.
Yeah.
He needs to understand the rules.
Don't talk into the microphone for 45 minutes. We'll give you the last 2. That's
Yeah.
it.
We have 30 seconds to give your opinion and go. This is a presidential debate.
We can mute the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, here, let's end it with this.
Okay.
How do you respond to fear in a healthy way? Because I think everyone who has fear in their life, and everyone has fear in their life, right? But everybody who deals with fear regularly knows what it's like to deal with fear in an unhealthy way.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it in a healthy way?
I would say I dive in to the best.
So you face it.
I face it.
Okay.
There's no point in running.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not it's financial fear or, circumstance fear or whatever it might be, you just have to face it to the best of your ability. And it sort of goes back to what we spoke about last week. It's like, you don't know the outcome and you might fail. And that's okay. Like, you might go to jail, but it's okay. Like, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, I'm not like I'm that point where I'm going to go to jail, but everybody's got money problems. But, oh my gosh, I've got gas problems too. I try to face it to the best of my ability. And I'm not perfect, and there's times where I don't, but my only option is to fight it.
Do you find that when you face it, you feel better about that fear later, whether or not you fail or succeed in facing that fear?
I mean,
does it help you?
Yeah, I just think there's a huge fear of the unknowing, and a lot of people have that with so many circumstances.
Everything.
Exactly, and once you have to just like jump right into it, whether it's well, I don't know if I if I need to make this phone call, if this person's going to yell at me, you just, you know what? You just got to bite the bullet.
That's as simple as like trying to kill a spider on the wall.
Yeah.
Like a big spider. Like, hey, you don't know if that thing's going to jump at you. Right. That's why it's so scary. If you knew every time that you went for a spider that it wasn't going to move and you could just squash it, people wouldn't be scared of spiders.
Right.
Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Right.
That's what's scary. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I agree with you. I think for me, I face it as well. But going back to what you said in the beginning, I assess the situation first. Sometimes it's not worth it to jump right in.
Yeah.
Because maybe that's irrational. Maybe it is too fast. Maybe you need more information or more experience or more something before you jump right into a fear.
True.
But I can guarantee that if anyone decides to face a fear instead of run from it, you're going to learn more facing it than you are running.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you just have to have a confidence in yourself that you're capable of facing whatever fear comes your way.
Right. And so it's easy to say, yes, face your fears, everybody. But where does that come from? Where do you get the confidence? Where do you get the motivation to actually face that fear?
From within the war. I'm with the body on the inside. No donuts can be denied. I can't remember the rest. I just think of like, look, I'm here now. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I'm still here. I'm in a better place than I was yesterday. Mm-hmm. Well, better place than I was last month.
Sure.
I'm in a better place than I was a year ago. I am just constantly moving forward, whether or not if there's an obstacle in my way, if I'm scared of that obstacle, it's like, okay, I've made it this far, I can make it farther. Mm-hmm. My time is not now. And I firmly believe that if there is a plan, that we're supposed to be a part of a plan, that if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. Yeah. We might not know what the plan entails. I think about this all the time. Like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm 25 years old. I don't know what I want to do. Frankly, a lot of people are in the same boat.
Yeah.
But if I'm 75 years old and all my loved ones are gone and I'm the last one, that's my life. I could die by 27. I don't know. But I put up a quote today and it was, we don't know our time, but we have to live it. We have to live it to the fullest as if we do know it. Mm-hmm. So if we knew that tomorrow is our time, we would go.
Yeah.
And I heard this story of a friend of mine who had beaten cancer, and he was this like amazing person who would do so much for so many people. And he was like that kind of guy that was like, look, this person's birthday tomorrow. I'm going to drive down like overnight and surprise them with breakfast in the morning. Like, he was that kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And then the cancer came back, or a version of cancer came back, and he was like, well, they gave me a short amount of time to beat it, or basically to live.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm going to fight it. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple days ago. But he made the conscious decision, like, I'm going to fight it. Like, cancer is a big thing. And surprisingly, we still haven't been able to cure it. And he decided, like, look, I beat it once, I can beat it again. Unfortunately, he didn't do it, but that's a life that you should be living. Living your life to the fullest to your best ability without any fear. Yeah. And that can be kind of reckless in some cases. Not saying he was reckless, but saying it can be reckless, where you're constantly doing stuff that you're not uncomfortable with, and it can get you into some sticky situations. But
what do you got to lose?
Exactly. But if you knew that tomorrow was your time, or if
today was your last day.
That's a Nickelback.
Yeah.
I love it. But it's like, I can't remember where I heard this, but it was like, if you had known that your parents are older, and if you had known that, like, say you see them like once a week or once a month, what if you knew that like they were going to die next year? Well, that once a month becomes like once a week.
Yeah.
Because like, whether you want your kids to see them or you want to have more time with them, you'd make that happen. Mm-hmm. When people say, oh, I don't have time, it's like, well, what if you knew that like your time was next year? How would you fill it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you look at it, you look at your fear rationally and decide it's better to live in that fear than to run from it. And that's how you motivate yourself to face your fear. Is that correct?
I mean, I've run from so many things.
Yeah.
And
I made a decision like a couple years ago that I was just tired of running,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to get my shot.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing away my shot.
How I motivate myself to face my fears
Yeah.
is I often do like sort of what you're explaining. Like I look at it rationally, like,
Yeah.
well, it's just a better idea,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I can just make the decision because I've done it so many times by now to be like, yeah, well, I should just do that.
Right.
But in the beginning, how I would motivate myself into facing fear, my parents used to say this quote all the time when Alex and I were growing up, that pain is only temporary. And I've never forgotten that. I don't
Mhm.
think I ever will. Because when it comes down to physical pain,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes down to mental pain, if you're living a healthy life and doing your best to live a healthy life,
Yeah.
pain is only temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And taking that a step further, as a believer, this life is only temporary and pain is only in this life.
Right.
You know, so I can understand in my fear, and I could face my fear by being, look, if I get hurt physically or
Mhm.
emotionally, that the pain that I might feel from that won't last forever.
Right.
And I'm going to learn more about myself. I'm going to learn more about the people around me, and I'm going to learn more about this world if I face those fears.
Right.
And hopefully, by learning those things, I can help somebody else
Mm-hmm.
down the line. Because I think running from things and being fearful can be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, no, I don't want to deal with that right now because I'm scared, because I don't want to. It's like,
Right.
well, you might meet someone tomorrow who desperately needs the information on how to beat this thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you could have it, but you're choosing not to
Yeah.
because you're scared. That's not a good enough reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I've always been harsh on myself that way,
Yeah.
to say you can save somebody
Mm-hmm.
by facing this fear. And it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but sometime down the line, you're going to learn wisdom by facing your fears, and somebody else in this life needs that wisdom.
Right.
So,
Well, it's fun. I'm going to add on to your quote because I just posted something like that the other week. I posted a quote that said, "Pain is temporary, quitting lasts forever." Because I think quitting, because no one ever really remembers the good things that they do or that they experience.
Yeah.
Like when you go to a restaurant, no one ever puts a good review. They always put a negative review if they have a bad time.
right.
So a negative emotion will last with you so much longer than a good emotion. So when you say pain is temporary, quitting lasts forever, it makes sense. Apply that to whatever circumstance you're going through right now. It's like if it's asking or if it's working out or if it's like, oh, I don't know if I can get myself off the couch and just start moving. It's like, look, it's going to suck. It's going to suck, but you have to do it. If I could get to like the perfect body weight,
Uh-huh.
no, I'm not going to say that. Never mind. Forget what I was going to say.
Go back to my hot dog analogy. The hot dog cart guy. Can you use that?
If I had to eat a hot dog a day,
Okay.
but I was in the best shape of my life,
Mhm.
I'd do it.
There you go.
That's pain.
It's pain and
That is
suffering,
torture.
but you're getting what you want,
Exactly.
right?
But it's the same thing. It's the same. You apply it to anything. And I always think of this, and I know if my manager's listening to this, she's going to yell at me. Anyway, it's so easy to get caught up in the, oh my gosh, like this is going to suck.
yeah.
Like pain doesn't have to be a physical pain. It could be like a mental torture.
yeah.
Like I don't want to make this phone call, or I
Sometimes
don't want to.
boredom is pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, I don't want to go to this party. I don't want to go. It's like if you quit enough, you're just gonna be that quitter. You know, when I was going through another depression phase, you would always invite me to go out
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I was like, no, and then you stopped asking because it's like, well, quitting is my answer. So it's like, well, if you're just gonna quit, I'm not gonna ask.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's like, I just don't want to go because there's the pain of like socializing. When really on the other side of that is fun and enjoyment and
Mm-hmm.
all these other things that I should have been doing. But again, I was just sitting and mellowing because I was just a quitter at the time.
Man, there's another quote from a song called "Chances Are."
Mm-hmm.
Subculture Sage, I believe, is the artist, and he says, "Nothing comes easy that's worth having." And I love that. And that's not his line. I mean, but it's in the song, and I love that song. Going off of what you just said, like, yes, nothing comes easy worth having. You can't have a good time without the uncomfortability of getting up off the couch and going to talk to some new people.
Right.
But by the end of the night, maybe you have had a good time. Maybe you didn't. But
You still did it.
But you still tried.
yeah.
You still did something new.
But and that's the thing. It's like we live in a society where instant gratification.
Right.
Like, yeah, okay, if I go out tonight, I'll feel so much better. No, you probably won't.
Mhm.
You'll probably still be in the same bucket that you were in when you left the house, but you'll be one step closer.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we've lost as a society. Like, our parents can attest to this, like, hard work. Most people older than us understand hard work. You didn't become what you are now by doing nothing.
Yeah.
And this is like the craziest thing that's been popping in my head lately. It's like the past 10 years. Like, look at all these like people like How Ridiculous or Joe Rogan or you name it.
My parents just celebrated 20 years for Sunco.
20 years. 10 years ago, they probably weren't in the place they were right now.
Hell no.
And I remember that. They were not.
Yeah.
So you think of like, look, 10 years is a lot. But in the grand scheme of things, like, I'm 25. At 35, I don't expect to be in the same spot that I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's good or bad, we don't know. We'll find out in 10 years.
Tune
but-
in next time.
Yeah. I was going to go with something, but I didn't want to. That is hard work. What
Yeah.
those people put in, their craft, their creativity, whatever, it is hard work. At the core of what they did, it was a business.
Mm-hmm.
And they applied themselves, they took their passion and they applied it. And it took 10 years. And all of them, well, except for How Ridiculous, are millionaires. I mean, they're probably millionaires, but like, look at them. Some of them are the biggest names in the world.
Right.
Elon Musk. Did
And-
anybody know who Elon Musk was 10 years ago? Probably not.
I mean, and most of these people, they're not just living their life for themselves and for their money.
Right.
They're doing their best to change the world. Some of them, not all of them. There's some
Yeah.
good eggs and there's some bad eggs. And if
Right.
you want to live your life for yourself, whatever, go do that.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are working their ass off to try to make this world a better place, those are the people who are making a difference.
What's something we should leave people with? I mean, that's a lot to leave with.
Yeah, I would say if you listen to this podcast, next time that you're scared of something irrational, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody's chasing you down the street with a machete, don't face them unless you also have a machete.
No, unless you have a gun. Yeah.
But next
What
time that
world do we live in? You don't have a gun.
next time you find yourself being scared,
Yeah.
being fearful, just think about these words and face it. Think about what you might gain
Yeah.
if you faced it. Weigh the pros and cons. Say, is it better to face this and deal with the pain that I might have, understanding that will be temporary, or do I choose to run? Do I choose to quit
Mm-hmm.
and choose to
Be a quitter.
be a quitter?
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
I would say be confident in who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're a nerd and you're not confident or you're ashamed or you name it, whatever it is like that you're afraid to be who you are. There are people out there that will accept you for who you are.
Yeah.
There are people out there that won't. Fuck those people because they're the bane of our existence. If you are a popular person or whatever it is, there are people out there for you, whether it's a relationship or a friendship or a family or a job. Like, there is so many opportunities out there. But the main thing is just be yourself.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times that I've been in a situation where people didn't like me. Okay, there's the door. I'm going to see you guys out. Or I won't stay long for that. I know it to be when I'm in a situation where I'm not wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Either I make the best of it, if I have no choice or not, or I don't. Or I just move on, or I don't hang out with those people anymore. But you know what? I still am the same person when I wake up in the morning and when I go to bed.
What other people think of you does not determine who you are.
Yep.
Be confident in who you are.
Yeah.
Most importantly, be excellent to one another. Colin's doing the
guitar
Bill and
thing.
Ted guitar thing. All right, everybody. I think that about wraps it up. You
Yeah.
good?
Yeah.
All right.
I got pee anyway.
Well, we will talk to you all next week when we talk about
Faith.
faith. All right. Come back next week. Good night, everybody.
Bye.